it doesn't look like we have any public comment.
No,
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that we have?
Think-
One maybe, with Kevin.
I think so. Andrew, we're not gonna be able to talk about survey results this evening, right?
Correct, unless you received something from Nate directly. I haven't seen anything.
So my understanding is we will though be getting that information probably next week or so. They were on site this week.
That's what Kevin was told by Nate. So I think, and I told Kevin to plan on if we do receive the results, presumably as soon as early next week, we'll have a chance to review with him, and hopefully he has it planned to come to the meeting on the 26th.
That went to our next meeting, maybe.
that would be 2 weeks from now anyway, yeah.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a specific schedule and milestones for a bond vote.
Right.
So I'm not exactly clear on who's leading this discussion. Is this something?
Oh, I got that.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, I can.
yeah, we were exploring all the steps backing up from the bond vote, that's the legal timing.
How many, what the timing is not?
Yep.
Yes,
Because we can't, yeah.
no more than such and no less
Yeah,
than
Got it.
such.
Yeah, so let me get my note. We got that here.
Yeah, and this is not your first rodeo either, Andrew, is it? Going through a bond vote? Have you done a bond vote before?
Yes, we have.
So there are public meetings involved and there are warnings and
Yeah, and we have to get it printed and all that.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think we're
Wording,
quite there yet for a bond vote.
no.
But I'm still hoping that we can do a bond vote this year. I think it would work well with all these grant opportunities if we could do something this year. So
Yeah,
I'm still hopeful that we can do that.
yeah. This
So-
May is probably unrealistic. So
I
then
think
it's
so.
Like the September realistic. That's
Probably.
kind of what we're talking about.
That's probably, yeah,
think you're on
and
the
Andrew
money
might be able to help us.
Huh?
I said, I think you're on the money there with September, because looking at a bond vote. I mean, I can go into the details. You need 40 to 30, you need to warn it. Not more than, not closer than 30, but not more than 40 days out from the vote. It needs to be in the paper for 3 consecutive weeks on the same day of the week. And the last iteration of that has to be 10 days prior to the vote, or within 10 to 5 days prior to the vote. So there's some very specific timelines. And then there has to be a public information hearing within 10 days of the vote. So to sort of break it down, let's say day one, this committee decides we're going to go to a bond. I would give probably 2 weeks to make sure that we get the paperwork back from the lawyers, and then we would meet again, make sure we're happy with that. That would be day 14. We would go to the select board on day 18 to have them approve the bond vote, all that paperwork. Then let's say the next day we warn the vote, then you have to wait, essentially, it would take 40 days. So that's 59 days out to the bond vote. So you're looking at probably a minimum of 60 days. If things sort of.
2
move quick.
months.
Yeah, so,
Generous month.
so 2 months prior. So yeah, if you're thinking September, we're thinking sometime in July to get that warning going. So, yeah. I think
Right.
2 months.
So for September, it would have to be July. And if we went to October, it would be.
Just 60 days out,
yeah,
at least
whatever,
60 days
same-
out.
Same deal, yeah.
Yep.
So fall is not necessarily going to be that difficult, but May or June would be difficult. So did you catch that? It
No, we
needs like
don't.
60 days to do a bond vote. You need
We need
like
60 days
lead
ahead of
time.
the bond vote for all the warnings and the meetings and the advertising and.
It's a little over 30.
legal
Yeah,
review
but-
and the select board and
Once you're actually ready to
Right.
warn it, but once we decide on a number and
Oh,
ballot, we have to go to
right.
the attorney, then we have to approve it.
I got you.
Then we have to
Yeah,
approve
yeah,
it.
So it adds up.
Select board's in there somewhere too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
and the select board, there's no guarantee the select board is going to just say, okay, thank you.
Because you're right, it would be 40, it's 40 from the day you warn it.
Right.
To get to warning, you need 20 or
Yeah.
30 days.
So it sounds most likely that we'll be talking about, September, October timeframe at best.
Yeah,
Which, is not bad, but for our process, we still have a lot of pieces to put together.
Right, we just
Yeah.
gotta keep
Yeah.
moving forwards.
Yep.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so it's kind of tentative fall.
Tentative fall, yeah.
Okay.
Were we gonna go back to like that schedule that Andrew had come up with?
Oh,
and
that-
Plug in numbers?
So where does that fit, Andrew, with your schedule that you put together? Do you know?
Bring it up.
That old draft schedule,
Yep.
the very first one,
We have been surprisingly on target.
I know.
So the fall schedule that we laid out is option 3, which would be,
And you're not sharing anything on the screen.
oh, sorry.
way that we
Yeah,
just-
Zoom has
Right.
2.
There we go.
Yeah,
There we go.
so 3.
So yeah, it's probably a faster track version of 3. I think 3 was based off of a November vote, but I think we record, this is not you don't have a vote schedule for November, right?
No, so this
So
would
it'd
be
have
a
to be a
special.
special election regardless. So I think
Yeah.
that any time in the fall is
So we might just need to slide a few things earlier if we tried to go for September or October.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, you can see the big difference here. It's,
Okay.
well, it's, the yellow bar is a little high, a little longer on all the phases, but,
Yeah,
but especially here on this first phase 1.
yeah.
Which we're right in the middle of that, right?
We're
So,
kind of
Right,
working through that, yeah.
right. But there are a couple complicated issues in front of us right now.
Mhm.
yeah, so it might
We're
take some.
not at the end of that first bar,
No.
no. Yeah. Are there, did you put in select board? Were you thinking about votes? I mean, that's the other thing we have to work on when we actually do the schedule is if there are things the select board needs to either be briefed on or vote on.
We have been keeping them informed, and in fact,
Yeah.
we might have a quick update on Monday's meeting of where we are right now. Just to let them know, it can be a 5 or 10 minute update. It doesn't need to be,
Mhm.
we're not looking for any decisions.
So I think that was kind of where
Necessarily.
we had landed last meeting, from what I remember, was we were talking about trying to establish those types of milestone goals and what was presented
Right.
to the select board and what was presented
Yeah.
for public input based
Uh-huh.
off of the timeline that you guys wanted to lay out in terms of that narrower window of when things get warranted and how things get presented.
I know I was thinking about this too, like I think the police decision is probably gonna have to be at least briefed to the select board.
Yeah,
We make a decision about the police, what we want to include in the police department for
Or-
phase.
Yeah,
A
we-
recommendation. for-
recommendation, we can't make a decision.
Well, recommendation.
I don't know whether they want to vote on it or not.
I don't know that either.
So that's a question. Is it a briefing or a vote? But anyway,
I think for Monday, it would be a briefing.
police, obviously, when we get to design choices,
Yes,
there's going to be a select board input and probably public input.
well, a big one is going to be, whether or not and how large in addition. Right, so like
Well,
if whether,
police Sort of drives that.
it
I
does
Let's
kind
try
of,
some of it, yes. I mean,
we could have put an addition on for other things too, but.
we can.
So-
And again, that's,
Mhm.
and again, we're gonna talk a lot about police tonight, but I'm also gonna put out there that, as soon as we have some sense of the size of the addition, we're anxious to get the site designers involved here,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that's another huge component of this from the
Right.
beginning is how can we make that
so
Well, yeah.
parking lot
it might
nicer?
be, and I don't I don't think it needs to be for Monday. But a question that's come up in front of the select board
Uh-huh.
a lot by at least a particular individual is that that we had to spend extra money for landscaping and you know, with the, so another $15,000 or something like that. And she's going, I can do this for, you know, I've been doing it for years. I can do it, you know, for
But it's not the
1,500, but it's
landscaping,
right.
She
it's
doesn't, so,
not-
but she doesn't get, I keep trying to explain,
Yeah.
but she doesn't quite get.
It's really not, it's a site design.
It's
Right.
not
Right.
It's
design.
really site planning.
Yeah, planting trees.
No, it's not. There is some of that, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
usually the very last thing that happens. But, and, you know, it's an important component, but it's just one little piece. It's really getting the bones of the site organized correctly that really makes a difference in where are you parking? How are you getting in and out? How do you have safe pedestrian access? How do you have safe bicycle access?
Is there a way to make, take down those bushes that obscure the part, I mean. you know,
Perhaps.
Like
There's
making
a little
the
park,
entry
there's
look
a little
little
memorial, I
nicer.
think, out there. And
Yeah.
so anyway, we're anxious to start looking at
Yeah.
that, but it doesn't really, we really need to
You
know
need to
whether,
know about the addition.
we need to know whether you want a Sally Port or not.
Yeah, Sally Port is a big deal. So, John, when do you think it would be good to put you in front of the select board? Is it soon, or do we still have some decisions to make before we do that?
I mean, I'm glad to go whenever you think it's useful. I'm not sure that I have a lot here that you haven't done a great job of presenting
Right.
back to them in
Yeah.
terms of what the program is and this whole piece of the, you know, whether you're gonna renovate or do a new building.
Mhm.
That's gone very well as
Done,
it's
yeah,
going.
it's-
So, you know, why
Thank goodness.
why rock the boat here when we're making good progress? But at some point, yeah, you're gonna want me in front of them. I think it's probably
February?
not yet, maybe, yeah, I mean, I think when we've got a site plan that you guys are comfortable with and we really want to know,
See, I think the Sally Port decision and how big it is might be one that we want them to decide rather than
we
us.
probably would. And again,
Yeah.
I'm glad to be at any of those if you
Yeah.
feel that that's going to be helpful.
How
So
about,
should
how
we-
about if we do it this way? So how about if I brief them on Monday and give them, set up some expectations and ask to put it on the next select board meeting, which should be in another 2 weeks, February something.
'Cause that'll
That's
be
the last
too
week in
long.
January.
Last week of
That'll give
January.
us
Yeah, well, that's
It'll be 3
February.
weeks.
Oh, that's true.
February 6th.
February 6th.
yeah, I think that could be a problem. Let me look at my calendar.
So we meet on, it's February 6th is when we're gonna be meeting.
Select board.
Yeah.
So we would have one more meeting of this committee before that,
Yes.
correct?
Oh, okay,
I'm
so
not
that-
trying to push you, John, because.
No. So that's a Monday?
Yes,
Okay, so that would work. I'm just out of town the entire week before that, so
okay.
I dodged it nicely.
So pencil it in, but not definite, and then we.
Yeah,
can-
and we can,
Yeah.
let's revisit this at the end of this meeting and certainly we don't have to set the select board agenda until our next meeting.
What are you hoping to present at that meeting?
Pardon me?
What are you hoping to present at that meeting?
I'd like to, before we do like site design, like knowing, making the decision on the Sally Port, I think is probably, or whatever addition we're talking about, it would be good to get them to weigh in on it. And, we should have an opinion and a recommendation and we should get confirmation from them. And it will, and maybe with some vague numbers, like.
I'm
this
good
will-
at vague ones,
Well,
yes.
Well, we have
Vague
the-
numbers that he already gave us
Yeah.
with the
So,
addition.
but
of
yeah,
that.
I mean, I think
So,
this group should probably have this discussion that we've been talking about the police
Yeah.
department to see if there's something that seems to make a lot of sense
Okay.
there.
yeah,
But I suspect you're right, that the select board really is one that needs to be making kind of these long-range planning decisions for the police department, not the building.
Yes,
committee.
yes.
right, so that's more about operations
It's a
than it is
it's a
about
policy
our
kind of thing.
It is, it definitely is.
So just
Okay.
one comment on the one thing that I could see being an important step, and Jeff, we kind of talked about this in Hinesburg, was whether or not, based off of tonight's meeting, kind of reviewing the takeaways from that, whether we wanted to allow for a iteration of us to take that, draft it, and then have something to present to the police chief and
Yes.
get his input before
That's
showing up.
a really good point, Andrew. We don't want to get ahead of the police chief.
Yeah.
that would be problematic. So, what my hope was tonight is that amongst ourselves, we could kind of go over what we learned and, you know, what our conclusions are from that.
Yep.
And then get input from, our police chief.
Would
Not-
we invite him to our next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would like to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
And I didn't kind of want to mix it up because I wanted us to be able to talk about what we learned from that.
Let's see how far we get tonight and whether we have enough feeling to have Andrew draw something up
Yes,
for Ben to look at.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that would be good. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know Andrew's got,
You've got other plans.
I don't know, did we get a copy do we have a plan of the Hinesburg
no.
building?
We
No.
asked them
Well,
for
but
it, I
Andrew at least has, Andrew, you have that Montpelier plan, right?
Okay.
Which would be good.
Yeah,
This
so
is
we can
as
look
an
at that.
example here.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
so
All right.
can you guys lead us through
Right.
what you need from us from this
Right.
site visit?
They saw
So the minutes were really great.
Yep.
From the
Yeah.
notes from the,
Yeah.
from the site visit there. And I wish I had printed those out, here with me, but I didn't.
We can pull them up.
But it's
I
okay.
can share them.
That would be good. I think,
Yeah,
so, I think really we want to kind of go through and make sure that those things that you saw there
Mhm.
are things that you think make sense,
Mhm.
or something bigger or something smaller,
mhm.
are things that should be under consideration
Mhm.
here. And secondly, whether there's any additional spaces
Mhm.
that,
Right.
that you might want to consider. And that's where the other plan that we have with us might at least show you some of the other expanded areas for, now it's, in Montpelier, it's obviously a larger police
Yeah.
department, but it's interesting. They have an awful lot of the same kind of functions, so.
Right.
Um,
I'm trying to pull up the things that our police department had said that
Oh,
they
yeah.
wanted.
That would
I
be
should have
helpful,
that
too.
somewhere. Hold on.
Yeah, the spreadsheet with the notes
Yes.
from their meeting.
Okay, do you want to just go
so
through,
I think, yeah, I mean,
just go through to the list,
Yeah,
the way Lori set it up? And Lori, I want to thank you too. This really is super helpful.
I will say, I agree with you, Jeff. There were more doors in that building than I've ever seen anywhere. Like, when you go down the hall and there's 7 doors.
well, yeah, I thought it was a
It's
much
like-
bigger building.
And a lot of the spaces with doors were little tiny closets.
They were, but there's a lot of security.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was interesting that the bulletproof glass was in the big window from the vestibule into the office space, but not in the door.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
I know.
that was probably an
Well, and they
error, I
said
would
they
think.
went back and Put metal in the wall
Yeah,
because the receptionist observed that a bullet could
Right.
go through the sheetrock.
so, so I think,
Okay.
so Andrew, you've got the, so we've got,
He's got it up
he's
there
got
too,
the
and
program
I
up
think
here,
that's the other
so.
one.
In the vestibule, let's just go through the list here, the drug take back box.
Which is out in our hall right
You
now.
have one already,
Is there one?
right? So
Yeah.
you're gonna wanna keep one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
You know,
not
probably
that it
doesn't
takes
need-
up a huge amount of space, but,
No,
um,
theirs did, but ours
right.
doesn't.
Theirs
but
was
having-
a real mailbox.
Can we
Can
turn
you-
Andrew
can-
up a little bit?
That was Linda, I think.
That was Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Linda.
Somebody was saying that it was much bigger than ours. Theirs was a real actual mailbox that was painted
Yeah.
black, and
Yeah.
ours is not. That's why
Yeah.
there's such a big difference.
But you don't need a big mailbox.
Yeah.
You do not.
Just has to be a lock. Okay,
So, the AED, that's the defibrillator, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the wall.
Right.
Do we have one? Do we have one in this building? Do we have a defibrillator
Yeah.
in this building?
Right out
Yeah,
there
so
by the
the-
police office door, right beside
Okay.
the drug box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and the other thing that you've got there is there's some functions here that you want the public to be able to get at really 24 hours
Well,
a day.
that's
Yeah,
where
they
their
can't do that. Yeah.
vestibule is unlocked all the time.
Exactly. And
You can get in to get the phone to call dispatch.
exactly. Or, yeah, and so that somebody can get in out of the rain and drop off the drugs or you know, or try to talk to somebody inside the building.
Right, because you have people walking in, seeing it's the police department, and they think they're gonna get help at all hours.
Right.
So it would
They have
seem,
Walk-ins at rescue too, for the same reason.
so it would seem to me that both of those items, the drug take back and the AED, don't need to be exclusively attributed to the police department.
The drug take back legally has to be.
I think so. I've
Yeah.
only seen them in police stations.
Yeah,
It's in, it was in their open,
yeah, but it
Vestibule.
has to be.
Right, but it has to be affiliated with a police
yeah,
station, with law
police have
enforcement.
To be monitoring.
so
it
if we
and
have a separate entrance for the police department, then that would
That's
fit.
where it would be.
That would be a good place
Yeah.
for it.
But again, so it's something to think about it. Again, that's kind of a design issue that we can solve. It's
Yeah.
really whether you want that, but, and I guess the big question would be is, do you want a vestibule that like that, where you can have the public come,
I
that's
like
not
that.
being arrested?
Yeah, where's the dispatch phone? There is a phone for the public.
Yeah, there's a phone right in
It's
front of
in
the
the-
entrance to the police station in
So it's
downstairs.
in the main, where we put the push button entrance in there now, that entrance.
No, I think it's right next to the drug take back box area by that. What do you mean by the push button entrance?
The entrance to the building.
Oh, no, you have to come up into the second floor.
So if the building's blocked, you can't get to the dispatch phone.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what.
But there's
Linda, that's
nothing-
right, right?
Ours does not, we don't have anything that calls dispatch. We have a sign that says, use
Yeah,
your
call.
own phone and call.
Oh, there's not a phone there?
Wow. So if
Okay,
you
I know
don't
there
have
was
a
a
phone,
phone.
you're SOL.
Right.
So I think that's the operative question is, do we want a separate entrance for the police?
Mhm.
Right,
And I would say yes.
yeah,
You know, I think that's been problematic all along,
Yes.
not having a separate entrance. And within that entrance, I like the idea of this vestibule. I thought
Right.
it was very effective and,
Yep.
and
and it was
useful.
not a big space. It held what. the
No, it doesn't need to be
necessity.
big.
Yeah.
So then you've got the idea of offices.
Mhm.
And I think, Andrew, we've just been talking about a single office for the chief. Is that correct? Whereas there were two offices
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Those-
for
those are the-
for our generic assumption, I think we were assuming the chief would have a private office and then the officers would share offices and that would have multiple workstations in it.
I would think that would be sufficient. What does Montpelier do? Do they have separate offices for different?
So
Level?
that's where the Montpelier diverges quite a bit. The staff this is sized for 20 people. So there's lots of dedicated offices on the second floor for
Yeah.
smaller.
So this is that was the first floor. Here's the second floor with,
So there's
Yeah.
chief, you have, a chief has an administrator, then you have a supervisor office.
I think this would be a
you have
good
an
question for
investigation
Ben.
office.
Is it, so my recollection is that the one office was for the chief and the second office was for the sergeant. Right,
Yeah.
you know,
Right,
Do
so,
we even have a second in command? Is that what-
Usually,
Yeah,
you know,
that would
so
be the plan.
Ben was an interim sergeant before he became an interim chief. Ordinarily, we do. We don't have a sergeant now.
No, we don't.
But, you know, I think the
so
goal
the
would
question
be
is
to
one
have,
or two
Yes.
offices.
I think the goal would be to have one. And is it necessary to have a separate office for a sergeant? I would defer to Ben maybe
Yeah,
on that.
and then Andrew, you were thinking about a workstation, not like two stations shared by the other people, but a workstation for each person, but it wouldn't be an office. Is that correct?
My assumption was that patrol officers could share a space, that they each have their own work area, but it would be a more
Okay.
shared
Fine.
space.
Counter and
that's pretty
Hinesburg.
much, that's very consistent
Yeah.
with what
Yeah.
was in,
Yep.
Yeah, as long as they each have a desk that
Yeah.
they can call their own or a desk
Or a
space.
space.
The biggest
exactly.
difference between what you have now and that is that space is dedicated purely for the patrol officers to work, and it's not shared by other functions.
Okay.
Um,
So
Hinesburg
dedicated-
was a little bit unique because they found a way to screen that space. But I think what we heard from the Hinesburg police chief was that is actually not ideal because that space being shared as a public room prevents them from having cameras in the public space, which is a security issue because they're not allowed to be monitoring the space by camera since the patrol officers are working on confidential information.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah, so
That's
The
kind of-
design challenge there would be, what we need, what needs to be on camera? You know, what spaces need to be on camera? And how does that interact with workspaces?
Well,
in some
and
fashion.
it brings up the separation of the reception area
You know,
from the patrol officers.
Mhm.
Because that, I think, is another thing that Ben mentioned. Didn't he? When you guys talked to Ben, didn't he say it would be better to have the admin office not in the same room with the patrol officers? Yeah, because right now they walk in and they're like looking over the shoulder of the officers as they're working, basically.
Mhm.
So if we're just generically, if we're going to use a floor plan to kind of walk through how that works, you know, Montpelier, what you would do is, you know, you walk in this front entry, which is a security lock system that you get buzzed in, and then you have this vestibule area. You have immediate access to a public restroom or the other features that we already talked about, like an AED or something like that.
Mhm.
But then beyond that, the other spaces are isolated and fully separated. And then you aren't able to, the general public isn't passing through private workspace. The private workspace is fully separated upstairs or farther back in this corner. The patrol office in this case is back here.
do we think we need a dedicated bathroom for the police department?
Yes.
Is that,
I think you'd be
necessary?
required to have a public restroom.
I mean, you know, but the department doesn't require a public bathroom. The building that it's in would require a public bathroom, which we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think this bathroom is dedicated for, if the
public.
community is using that training room, then they need a bathroom
Right.
in there to
Okay.
make it. So I think that's really the reason there's a bathroom right there. Otherwise, I'm not sure you're required to have a public restroom in the lobby
Well,
of the
if you
police
have-
station.
If you have a holding cell, it's gonna have a toilet in it.
That will have, that will have
Different.
toilets,
Yeah.
and there will be toilets for the patrol, the
Back,
police.
for the back, but a
Right.
public
Yeah.
restroom, no.
Exactly. Now, the one,
Sorry.
go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was gonna say, I could easily see a situation, let's say you have someone from the public who is not just there temporarily, but they're there for at least a long enough period where maybe they need to use a restroom. And you don't want them to have to rely on using a restroom that is
Point. It's a good point.
reserved for police staff, or vice versa, having the police staff have to pass out of a area that is technically secure to go, I don't know.
I mean, if this bathroom weren't there, if you can zoom out, where would someone likely go to the restroom that was being interviewed or waiting on their son to get released, who's in the back?
Well, is there a building bathroom though? In the town center has a bathroom.
Right, but I'm looking on this plan, you know, there's one up off of the file room, which is
Yeah.
kind of for the patrol officers' use. And that's probably where that someone will be getting led into there and said, you can go to the restroom here. Unless they went upstairs, and I'm sure there's bathrooms upstairs too.
Yeah, we have bathrooms.
But you're not gonna put them in the holding cell.
Right,
have them
right,
go to the
right.
bathroom
No,
there.
No, that wouldn't make sense.
Well, and the question
this
is,
a
does that create a
standalone building?
security concern? Because, you know, like in this scenario, let's say the person from the public is having to pass through a space that potentially could have confidential or sensitive
True.
information, or suddenly they're within a secure space where maybe they have access to something that they're not supposed to, you know.
My guess is, Andrew, in this case, that an officer would come and they would perhaps escort them upstairs. And I bet if you went to the second floor plan, there might be a bathroom upstairs.
You know, for the officers, it'd be the
No, not
locker room,
really.
right? For the officers, it'd be a locker room.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that's a good point, you know. Where would in this plan, if that public restroom wasn't right there, where would they go? Or maybe
Well, they could-
it would,
The public could go, you know, to,
in this building,
In
when I'm
this
saying.
building, they could just go out into the lobby
Absolutely,
restroom.
exactly.
We
They
don't
could
need
leave
to
the police
add a
station.
public restroom inside the lobby.
what I don't get is the scenario that you're talking about, John, which is one I can easily imagine is, you know, that, you know, a kid get picked up for a DUI, and you hold him for a couple of hours. You're not gonna send him back into the holding cell necessarily to go to the bathroom, and you don't want to open up the rest of the building necessarily.
Uh-huh. Hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
Hi,
Jay, do you know John Hemmelgarn?
we have not met.
Jay is our, he's our, what do we call you? Your project manager?
Owner's rep.
Owner's rep?
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Bye,
to meet you.
Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway. Okay. Well, so.
So,
Perhaps
we-
that's
obviously
something
we
that you could
obviously
talk
need
with the
restrooms,
police
but We
department.
don't need a public restroom
I think that's,
in the lobby because we have other access.
I think that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Andrew? That, the officers need something somewhere that maybe
Maybe
You
a
know,
locker room, maybe.
maybe a locker room or, and that bathroom might be accessible for a parent. If we don't have to open up the rest of the building necessarily.
Yeah.
So, this is a design problem for you guys to figure out is where to put bathrooms, but
How many bathrooms do we need?
I think that's the question.
Okay.
And I think that'll become apparent
Yeah.
as we,
Yeah.
as we move.
I think so too.
Um,
Okay.
so
So
what else was on that list there?
Obviously-
We talked about the workspace for the officers and we've talked about
Yeah.
a chief and 4 other officers.
That's correct, including a sergeant.
Yeah, right. And one of them, one of those workstations may become a small
Yeah.
office,
Yeah.
but right now we're saying no.
Yeah,
We're working under the presumption of 5 full-time officers, and what, a part-time?
4 full-time officers, a chief, so that's 5, and then 3 to 4 part-timers.
And so the 3 to 4 part-timers do, the
They don't
partners
really
can have
need-
it, they don't need a
I
desk
don't think they
necessarily.
need much.
They're
I
not
mean,
all
that's
at the same
been-
time
they're
either.
they're only here for like a shift or 2 a month. They kind of come
so
in
they
and
could have it, if there was an extra space, they could
Shared.
share
Yeah.
probably.
when they were
I
there,
would
that
think
would be fine.
So that's kind of a chief and then maybe 5 workstations there, 4 for full-time officers
Yeah.
and 1 for.
It's-
Or 2.
Temporary
offices,
one,
Depending on the office,
And,
who needs a private office?
and with their
question.
scheduling, like even if we have 5 full-time officers, they're not all working at the same time, are they? So like you actually, if you had workstations where people could, like they had their laptop or their iPad and you're just putting in a docking station, people can use.
Yeah,
it sounded,
I know
some workspace.
talking to Ben, he liked the idea of everybody having at least like sort of a dedicated space so they can kind of keep a few.
leave
the
their.
family photos and.
That's exactly how I always think of it, is where do you put the pictures of your kids
Yeah.
and your dog?
Yeah,
He did also
Um,
acknowledge that there's at least some time overlap where everyone is there present together
yeah,
between shifts,
yeah.
where someone shows up, like a shift shows up an hour in advance.
Just these once a
Yeah.
month part-timers wouldn't really
I
need
don't-
their own
Yeah.
desk.
I checked with them, but I don't think they really
Yeah.
would. They're so part-time.
So,
I have a Ben list,
one communal desk,
one desk for the
an,
part-timers.
an office for the chief.
Question
Sergeant is still
mark.
up in the air a little bit and maybe three workstations.
Mhm.
The wor- you know, I kind of liked. So I like the idea that half wall was interesting to me because the people who are working there can see if anybody comes in the lobby. And
Especially when he doesn't have an admin right now.
Mhm.
well, we don't either. I mean, we have very,
Right, but if you look back at that Montpelier plan, which is
Yeah.
interesting, Andrew, can you put that up there? You do want, so there you walk in the little glass vestibule piece
Yeah.
and then there's what looks like a desk right there in the lobby.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
But Andrew, anytime I've ever been in that building, I've never seen anybody sitting at that desk. They make it sound like I've been there a lot, but only when I get parking tickets, which is a lot in Montpelier. There's a window right there that is where you come up to say, gosh, I really
Oh,
wish
you
I
have to
hadn't
be
gotten this
buzzed
parking
in.
ticket. What's
you
that?
have to be buzzed into the lobby. you said, right?
No, I don't think
No?
you are.
When
No?
they're open and you can
Yeah.
walk in.
That door does not, I don't think that buzzes you in.
Okay,
So there are ways to do that without physically doing it, camera, here I am,
Right.
let me in,
Right.
yeah,
one of the things I liked about the Hinesburg experience is it felt welcoming. It felt open and welcoming.
Yeah.
And it was, kind of an open floor plan, really.
Yeah.
I don't know how that jives with the security camera stuff.
Yeah, from a security standpoint, it's much less secure than something like this. Where even if that were part of that lobby were closed off as a separate room with the drug drop off and the
The dispatch phone.
right, and then all that could be in there, and once you're staying in there, someone in the back office there could see you and buzz you in, or you could
Right.
talk to them. And then you could come into the next space and go over to the transaction window.
Yeah.
Which still provides lots of security for the people behind there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just think they have more layers than we are probably gonna be able to afford to have. You know, I mean,
Give me Montpelier.
Yeah.
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 but Hinesburg had, it was, that could have been a wall there.
Yeah.
Instead of the short depth.
It could
And
have
it would
been.
have closed it up a lot, but it, for
Right.
security, it could have been a wall.
Right, but in your program here, where they said dispatch and people were behind the glass, that's essentially your reception desk.
Yeah.
And there's somebody there who's watching the
Yeah.
front door and
Yeah.
answering the phone and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then
They
there
have
was
their own-
a whole file room in between there, and
yeah.
then there was what they called the patrol room.
Yeah.
Which I think you're gonna end up with a patrol room, which is where all these workstations are.
Yeah,
And there's probably an office there somewhere.
Yeah.
And again, that's all gonna be, as Ben was saying, it's all kind of the personality of the chief as to whether that office is right in there with the patrolmen,
Yeah.
yeah,
patrol people.
Right.
Or whether it's upstairs in on the second floor away from the action.
right. Okay.
That's kind
Where
of-
is dispatch? Is it at the fire department? Is it state police? What's the
It's, Shelburne.
Shelburne is your
It's
dispatch?
contract with
Okay,
Shelburne for dispatch, I think.
Wow.
okay.
Does police, fire and rescue is Shelburne, is it also?
No, we're state police.
Oh, state police. So state police are the dispatch,
Out of,
probably
Williston.
Williston.
Williston, I think.
Williston.
Yeah. You never know, because if the phones ring over, it could be the dispatch in
no,
Springfield.
exactly. What's the difference?
They
really?
want the same maps.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
so
in addition to that, there's a reception space, someplace that the person who's answering the phone in Hinesburg, it was that desk sitting right out there.
Yeah,
It almost seemed to me that was an afterthought. But
yeah,
so, then there's the evidence lockers, the armory, those are kind of storage.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do
those
we-
are,
Do we have those things here?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't ever
Yeah.
been in them.
Yeah, there's an evidence area in the police area there.
Okay,
And then there's a storage area down in the basement that's not great because it's in the basement.
yeah,
But
I
there
think
is
some of this
storage.
stuff are the ones that are up that little set of stairs.
No, those
there.
set of stairs, that's the evidence.
Yeah.
That's a secure
And
evidence.
I think the
all right,
gun cabinet's in there.
I think
too.
so.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Either that-
I almost
Thank you,
don't,
Linda.
I mean, we can do it. I mean, we can schedule a time where we take a look at it. I don't know. if
Yeah,
it's
Linda, I don't know if you could
necessary.
I don't
pull
know. Fine.
turn your volume up on your computer there, if that might help. I can hear you because I'm right next to the speakers here in the room.
Turn this around. Her mic, for some reason, I don't know, it's weird. The Andrew's fine.
I know, I'm not hearing Linda
Yeah,
at all.
maybe that'll help.
I'm
Project it.
sorry, and I didn't see you, Linda.
Well,
Did you have something you wanted to say?
She frozen?
No,
No, okay.
now we can't hear it all.
Well, I didn't say anything.
Oh, well,
there you are.
that
Now we
would,
can
that
hear
would
you.
explain it.
That's why you couldn't hear me.
So,
I
yeah,
will
you're
attempt
still,
to try to get the little part here that turns up the voice.
there we go. So then we've got, the kitchen.
Which we already have sort of a communal kitchen that Linda said Allison is already using. One of the patrol officers already uses it. So whether they need a dedicated kitchen,
I would
Or
think
a
not.
building kitchen.
What do you think, Linda, about sharing a kitchen with the police department?
Well, if it was easier to get to, I mean, now they have to come out of their station completely and cross the lobby and go down the
Yeah.
hall.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awkward place where we have it now, but I mean, there could be a communal kitchen that was, easier access for, maybe even a kitchen space. We don't know yet whether they're going to be offices up here. We do think they're going to be offices up here, likely. Right? Probably planning and zoning or something, right? Is likely going to be up
You
here.
know, we haven't come to
Past that
that
far, I
final
don't think.
conclusion yet, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
the most of the plans we've shown have shown that it's gonna be hard, it's hard to get everything downstairs.
Right.
And a lot of it depends on how big the police station is.
Right.
Yeah.
But so, does it make sense to have a communal kitchen on both floors
So,
like
so
there is now?
I think we should clarify what we mean when we say kitchen, because there are different scales of this. Because when I hear kitchen, I think of a common space that allows them to have a break room and sit and relax for a moment, but also still be working. So if I could just plain devil's advocate here, if they don't have that own dedicated space for themselves and they're having to leave the police department to go into another space, and if maybe they're the only person on shift, does that mean that they don't have a break room or space to actually still be within the police department? But just
Good question.
So maybe a Ben question? I don't
Is
know.
there gonna be a conference room? I mean, where I used to work, the conference room was the break room, and then if people were in it, you didn't have a break room for that hour that it was being used. So,
so on that, so I could, that would be, it wouldn't necessarily be this size, but if your community, fairly accessible space off of the entrance had a kitchenette in it, like a countertop with a sink, is that enough?
It might be, on the other hand, if a group is using that, then the police
then you're-
doesn't have
yeah.
the place to
Right.
heat up their lunch or to make their tea or coffee, and
Yeah.
well, if they have an interview, I remember that, Tony, is that his name? Tony?
Anthony.
Anthony.
Mhm.
I don't think, he said they don't use that community, they're at Hinesburg, they're just using that for their own interviews. It's not a publicly
They didn't have a separate entrance.
available space for
Right.
community people to use. So they're in control of who's in there.
Right.
And and they don't use it for trainings because they use the fire department, because they have a bigger training room.
So some of the, and I'm hoping you guys can, help us work through, what can be common space, what can be used by other departments, and things like, I don't know, break room, conference room,
Mhm.
training room,
right,
all seem like things that could have multiple purposes. They don't have to be necessarily dedicated to just one department or another, really.
Mhm.
right. I think that we probably should organize this list in that way, and that those are
Mhm.
potentially shared spaces.
Mhm.
I think that somewhere along the line, we need to include some kind of a kitchen, a food
Mhm.
warming
Yes,
space.
yes, absolutely.
And whether that's dedicated to the police department.
Yes.
Which if it is, now, I'm not sure Josh wants in the middle of the day
Right.
to get up and go downstairs and.
Right. Well, and I could see a dedicated space on both levels as well. That
Yeah.
would make a certain amount of sense to me.
Okay.
But, things that are, exclusive to the police department are going to be the armory and the evidence room and,
Right,
Those are fairly small.
right.
and probably storage for other things too, he talked about a lot about liking to have like Staples type storage.
Yeah, that was
Separate.
my storage
Supply
closet for
closet.
stationery. There's a
Supply
budget issue too, because the police department
Yeah.
budget is separate from the town, so you can't really have a common storage. Even though it makes total sense for everybody to buy
Right.
supplies, unless you figure out a prorating system and dividing the budget, it's.
Well, we heard in Hinesburg, there was one commodity they used like in huge.
Yeah.
File
No,
folders.
full
File
file
folders,
so
right.
They use thousands.
So,
So likely that server and phone closet, I don't know. I mean, we're certainly going to need that for the entire building. Does it need to, does
Right.
there need to be
Those have to be separated out.
separate or not?
I'm gonna guess that it does.
Just for security?
I'm
And
gonna,
also-
I don't know, I'm not an expert in that part, but, I mean, and that's part of the problem here is we're kind of getting into the police
Yeah. that's
design
fine.
here and
Yeah.
which at some point we'll want to get.
So a question for
Somebody.
our chief is like, what do you have to have that's just specifically dedicated to police?
And, and.
Like,
and
what are
ni-
your legal requirements or your safety requirements?
And neither chief, neither Hinesburg or our chief may know all of those requirements, I mean,
So, but I gotta think that, from a phone or server closet standpoint, it's not a huge space, but I'm thinking
Yeah.
that you would want one.
Yeah.
And if they've got security cameras, I mean. you
and
probably
radio, the radio
Same
could be
video
different.
camera footage and-
Body cam footage,
Right,
there's a lot of IT sort of
Yep.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
so,
And then.
And they
then
have their own
IT.
system, their own computer system, which is completely separate from the rest of the building.
No.
Yeah.
they already have that, right, Linda?
Yeah, and we don't want to have, like, right now, we have one of the electric panel boxes in there. So if somebody blows a fuse, then we have to get a policeman to come and flip
Oh,
it.
that's not good.
Oh, yeah, Duncan was talking about that the other day.
Yeah,
Well, we'll try to avoid that.
okay. And then.
So
okay.
now when we get to the processing area, I think we'll all agree that that's all pretty unique stuff to
Yeah.
the police department.
Right,
The, so here's the big question, right? To the Sally Port, we're right there.
Mhm.
and
In my mind, I thought what they had in Hinesburg was really huge.
the
Yeah.
3-car garage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
four.
cruiser garage. Plus, there was all that space in the back,
Right.
even with 4 cruisers in there, that was a huge
Right.
space.
So, but if you look here, this is the Montpelier plan, right? For
Okay.
Oh, there
this
they
is
have.
The
It's a one-car.
15-person department. There's a bay that's 22 feet long, which is like a nice comfortable length depth for your garage at home.
Right,
And it's 15 feet wide, which is, a parking spot is 9.
right,
And so there's another 3 feet on either side, so allows you to pull in. You're probably gonna have 4 feet easily, maybe 5 on either side of the car to have an officer or 2 and getting someone out of the car, getting them in.
right.
So that, that seems like a nice, or you might even have some stuff stored there, maybe, or maybe not, but that's for one vehicle. You pull in, you do your business, you pull
Yeah.
it back out.
Yeah.
There's maybe there's one patrol car that gets to spend the night in there, but,
The chief's car,
the
the electric car to
The
plug
electric car,
in.
yeah.
Right.
They're gonna want to wash their cars in there.
Then there's a floor drain here, 2 of them. So, I
Yeah.
guess as I look at it, I think, and I think he made a good point in Hinesburg about kind of how that gets used and why it's important to not necessarily be doing those things in the middle of the parking lot where everybody can watch.
And I
Right.
think that's the same for here. I mean, we've
I
got
would
little
think so.
kids and families coming in and out of the library. We've got residential on the other side of our building for security reasons. We should
Yeah,
if somebody's being processed,
It
we
certainly
should
seemed
control
necessary.
them
to
all
me.
the time.
when he explained how everything's locked
Yeah.
down and your perp can't go anywhere
Hmm.
without.
To
an
you,
officer.
perps and all that.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of mystery novels and police procedural.
It does seem
And
like a
that's-
small garage where we can pull in and secure.
Yeah,
is-
and have them not be going anywhere and know you've got a lot.
So I would think that would be the minimum. And
Processing space and this,
And
and
a one
one
car.
car Sally Port.
it would seem like a minimum to me, and I don't know how it fits with a separate entrance into the building for the police department.
We'll figure that one out. That's what we're chomping at the bit to kind of get
I
out.
wanna get to it
I think there
now.
are solutions out there
Yeah.
for that.
Because it is a little challenging because it's half a level up,
Yes.
So
So we're gonna want to talk about which of the things that want to be kind of at that level. And it was interesting. I thought going to Hinesburg was really good because as I looked at it, we go to the next part of the list that was there. What goes with the Sally Port, the processing room,
Yep.
Mhm.
right?
And the
Yeah,
holding cell.
And the holding cell.
but,
Oh.
and that was such a small,
Yeah,
that was not
that
a
was
lot
not a lot
of
of
square
space.
feet. in
Wasn't,
that
it seems like, and
Seemed minimum,
he was talking about people come in, they get into those parts of the building and then they leave and they never get any
They're
further.
either fixed or we drive them somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, so if
basically.
all of those were at that level, kind of
Yeah.
at that ground floor. Now you're not having to haul people up and down steps
Yeah.
or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's a very limited amount of kind of,
So it expands that one car garage to being
a
a
little bit, yeah.
little bit bigger.
little bit.
You know what I,
Which makes sense to
This
me.
size wasn't for the processing room and the holding cell. It wasn't that much bigger than, say, like the office that was
No,
out front. I mean, it was
I
fairly.
can't
nice.
imagine it being a whole lot
Yeah.
smaller than that,
No,
you know, it would
but
seem,
it's not like here, we're not bringing in,
Six
six
people at a time, yeah.
rioters. I mean, we're bringing
Well, you
one
never
person at a time. And Josh, what did you say? They bring probably 10 or 12 people in a year.
If I had to guess, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
small
not-
business.
Not,
A lot, and
Small.
I think Hinesburg's bringing in 6 riders every month. Like,
No,
that was a unique thing.
I think he said there was only one time where he had to bring in 3 people
Yeah,
at the same
it was
time or
a
something.
unique.
the gas pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, the gas protest, that was at the
Yeah.
gas
They
pipeline.
were-
I probably know a few of
They were
those people.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's some violent too.
yeah, really, they're really bad people.
Right, but you can see on this
Yeah,
plan,
yeah,
if you've
yeah.
got the processing room there on the bottom, but another room about that size is one of those holding
Yeah.
cells,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whether you call it a holding cell or you get another name for it, that,
Yeah, another good, it would be good.
right.
to come
But
up with
again,
that.
it's less less square footage than
Yeah.
the Sally port, but it would be easy to have those
Yeah,
together.
together,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And they seem to be fine with one of each of those spaces.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, in fact, the little holding cell was just off of the
Yeah.
processing
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Right, it was just basically in that,
Right.
in that locked area just
Right.
off the Sally Port,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, so
I
I'm,
think we're sort of in agreement
Mhm.
that,
that's about what you need.
Yeah.
yeah, now you get
And
into
that-
locker rooms and all that, and it's like, then I start going,
Well, we're gonna get to that here in a
be
minute.
really nice, but
So you said the garage area was what, 14 by 22, is that what? it-
15 by 22 is what was there in Montpelier.
Yeah.
I think to be exact, I think it was 15 feet 2 inches, but
mhm. One car plus.
Right.
Plus some space around the,
it should be like
Vehicle.
330
I'm
square
trying to
feet or
figure that out,
something.
yeah. So, you know, something like 500 square feet for both, maybe a little bit
Probably,
more,
yeah.
500 or 600
Yeah.
square feet for both.
For both.
For
For
the
the
processing room and the holding cell and the Sally port.
yeah,
So, okay.
Something on that order.
Right, I mean, Andrew, we can put some
Guesstimating.
square footages on these
Yeah.
things and we can
So-
make the list, but
I have it open, right? We can we'll go to the square footages after this conversation when we get to the
Okay.
program.
So it's a little easier for us, Linda, to be talking amongst ourselves here and it's going, yes, we all agree with each other. Is all of this making sense to you, Linda?
yes, it's fine.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay,
Yeah. all right, so
So-
here we go.
So now, all the storage that they had in the Sally port, though, I mean, you've got a lot of basement storage here.
yeah, we do. We got a lot of basement storage. So, I think the basement may, maybe we can figure out an easier access to the basement too. That might be
Maybe.
nice,
We'll get into the floodplain
they-
stuff here soon enough.
They also were storing all their tires and Richmond, the tires go over to the highway department. And
Yeah.
they were storing a lot of junk that doesn't even need to be stored. You know, it needed to be taken
Well, That's
wherever.
That's true for all of us, right?
Mhm.
If we have
Everybody.
space, it gets stuff stored in it.
Should have seen the library closet that we got rid of.
I've got 100-foot long dairy barn with 2 floors.
Well,
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
it's getting there. So,
Okay.
all right, so now locker rooms and that kind of back of the house amenities for the staff, really, is that what those are, right? Showers, bathrooms,
Mhm.
That seemed pretty necessary to me. Maybe it was very nice. I thought it was maybe a little narrow, but it was.
We had to move the bench to open the door,
Yeah.
but
there were several spots where it was clear that they'd had a bigger design that
Yeah.
then to save money, things had gotten shrunk down.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common.
I think a big
Those
part of
were
that was
big
the
lockers.
lockers. I think they sized that space for 1 foot deep lockers. And then they
Oh,
put the
and the-
2 foot by 2 foot ones and
yeah.
So that would be something to ask Ben, I suppose.
of
Those
lockers.
seem like big lockers to me, you know, you're also storing a lot of stuff.
What Andrew said, they were supposed to be the little school locker type.
Yeah.
And then they put in those big ones and so the space.
Because
got
those
narrow.
big ones also had places to charge their phones in there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That,
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we get into the specifications for the lockers. At-
Yeah.
At this
Yeah.
point, it's like,
Yeah.
do we want lockers or not lockers? Right. So, I mean, this is pretty amazing to look at this right here. I mean, I did a quick count. What is that? Like 24 lockers in the men's locker room and another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 or so in the women's locker room.
Yeah.
and it doesn't seem like that much space. So
Wow.
what is it?
That's kind of, you could have a
50
couple basketball teams in there, but
Yeah.
It would seem, yeah.
Big police force.
well, that's
Yeah.
that's like 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Connie.
For the parking committee, but I think I'm gonna learn.
I think they went to all virtual tonight.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, sorry.
A place I can sit down and just hop on and.
Yeah, if you just, either one of those rooms. I would take the far room because it's nicer. I would use the far room because it's nicer and there's windows. Oh, yeah, let me, I'll get you that. You guys.
That's okay.
All right. So, yeah.
So
But
lockers,
Do
yes.
we say yes? It seems like the
Locker room.
patrolman need
Needs a
place to go to the
change,
bathroom.
their
maybe
personal
place to-
belongings and, yeah.
to put their change clothes to take a shower.
Yeah, I think showers is important, you know, like I think of people throwing up on you, which
Right, yeah,
seem
they
like
talks about shower for decontamination,
you would
really.
think that that would be, or blood or, you know,
Have to-
fluids. I
Or
would think-
whatever anybody decided they're gonna throw at a police officer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Been on
Yeah.
Those other things.
Right.
So I would think yes for a shower.
And you know, and again, where they have men's and women's here,
You could be gender neutral, something.
could you would.
They're closed.
What, yeah, I mean, Hinesburg had that separate room that someone who didn't feel comfortable with the group could use.
Yeah.
You know, so you could do a couple
But
of
the shower
those,
room is a separate room from the locker room.
Right.
So,
right? Yeah, so we just need to have enough facilities for everyone that's on the force and,
Frankly, I
no
think,
lockers
and I
and
think
no
all of
shower.
our bathrooms in the entire building should be gender neutral.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just to avoid any issues.
So, but how many lockers do we need? I mean, we talked about
I think
2, 4, 5, 6, plus some part-time people.
Did you
Well,
count how many they had?
4 plus a chief.
They had,
Reception.
I think they had
I
8.
don't know,
Eight.
they had 8 lockers there.
yeah, I don't know if the receptionist needs a locker.
No,
I'm thinking
probably
it's
not.
more changing in and out of
Right.
uniform, right?
The part-timers, do you think the part-times need?
I think a good question for Ben, but they might, I mean, maybe one,
One
maybe.
to share or
I
one
would
to
think-
like,
yeah.
depending on who's.
Just a couple
staying.
extras if
Yeah.
somebody's there,
Yes, you can, yeah,
itinerant officer.
you know, I don't think they
6
ever
for us.
overlap on the
Oh.
part-timers, so they
Okay.
could probably, yeah, use the locker for the time they're there and then take the clothes.
So
off.
maybe 8 lockers.
I could see, you know, having a dedicated locker, you'd have your own stuff in it, you know, particularly your phone and, you know, charger and stuff like that. So, you know, I could see having at least one extra but beyond, you know, if we've got
Beyond the number. of
5,
staff.
Yeah,
paid
one
employees,
for the
one-
part-timers to share.
yeah.
I think that would make.
So a half
sense.
dozen.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's
6.
probably about right.
So, yeah, again, I think it can be nice without being huge,
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
if it's
Doesn't have-
if
yeah.
it's well designed.
Yeah, I think so
So that
too.
you've got some, some space in between, so the lockers over here, the bathrooms are over there, there's a spot for a shower.
Mhm.
So what else do they have here? They have, a couple showers,
Toilet.
a bench to sit on to get,
Yeah.
get dressed after you're out of the shower, some toilets, sinks to.
What about laundry?
I was gonna say, do they need a supply closet there for?
Is there laundry, Andrew, on this?
I actually don't see laundry on this.
Yeah,
I don't think Hinesburg had
I don't-
laundry
They
either.
didn't have.
I don't
laundry
think they
there.
had laundry.
I mean, they can.
It might be nice to have a washer and dryer if you have a uniform that's been thrown up on and you don't want to wash that back home. Not sure how that works.
I mean, rescue has washers and dryers for that purpose because they don't want to bring contaminated things.
At
home.
fire
Wash
department,
it in your own, in the rescue building.
the rescue, okay.
Question
Yeah.
for Ben, like, is there a need for
Ben,
that?
Yeah,
Let's.
so washers, dryer.
Mhm.
Like we said, 8 lockers we came up with?
I think 6.
Six, I think we
6,
said.
okay,
Um,
my Ben list.
But again, you can get rid of, if you spend a little more space and make all these, as you say, gender neutral.
Yeah. you don't have to have
Now you just save a lot of
Mhm.
duplicated space. that we did
and I
see
think
on this
that,
plan.
you know, they had a lot of doors in that locker room. And a lot of little spaces, that, you know, one of them was for you know, a woman to change in, but I didn't
Oh,
understand.
there's one in the back that's.
I don't understand why the woman can't change in the bathroom. There was a big, you know, it was a pretty big bathroom space or,
It sounded like that was another case where you were saying the plan had been different. And then it was gonna be the women's locker room, I got the sense,
Mhm.
because he put a locker in there, but then it got filled up with junk because nobody was using it or something. Yeah.
But again, we're getting back to, we need to make sure that there's a half dozen potential officers there that need to be able to take a shower.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I don't know why one shower in its own separate room.
yeah.
That sounds.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with toilets. I mean, one toilet for 6 people
Yeah,
is like
that'd be fine.
enough.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
enough.
You know, so, you know, and maybe what you've got is then 2 or 3 cubicle rooms for changing your clothes in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as far as, you know, beds,
No.
that's a policy decision. I don't really
No.
think so, you know?
We don't have like 12,
We're not going like
24-hour
that.
shifts
Right.
where people have to be able to rest when they're not out.
I
Yeah.
don't
No.
see that.
Mm-mm. No,
Okay.
So-
I can hear
you
Andy
feeling-
saying, they're not gonna be sleeping when they're on duty. Out loud, saying that.
So I'm trying to see on here if there's a list. Was there like an interview room there in Hinesburg where you take a suspect and you need to kind
No,
of
they
turn on the
use-
tape recorder? And
They use the conference room, he said.
I see, and that
Well,
was
they
a kind
have
of a
that
problem,
little
I think.
desk In the holding area.
Yeah, there was
There's a
space
desk.
in the, you know, the processing.
rooms.
I see,
There's a desk and a guest chair
right, yeah.
there, and he
Right.
said that's where they sit to talk and fill out paperwork and,
Right.
you know, do all that stuff. And
That would seem like it would make sense. It can be secure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And, you
Yeah.
know, and big enough to be able to do all of that.
I think he talked
So-
about like victims, they just sit in the conference room
Or in the office.
or in the chief's office or the deputy's office.
I think probably having a, you know, maybe not, you know, it doesn't need to be a big conference room, but, you know,
A meeting
you don't
space.
necessarily want to bring, you know, a mother in to a processing area. You want to have a place where, you know, maybe it's just the chief's office is large enough to have a table in it,
Mhm.
you know, a round table or something
Yeah,
in
so
it.
they have an interview, there's interview rooms there.
Soft room.
So
soft room.
so the way that this has been communicated, and I think your current interim police chief expressed the interest in this as well, is the concept that you have the opportunity to bring someone in a private interview room that's secure and isolated from the public space, but not have it feel like they are being interrogated or in a jail cell, but it's still very much a secure, safe space that's separate and isolated from the general public. And
So, and I, you know, I'd be curious of how, you know, whether that could be accomplished in the chief's office or not.
So this is a Ben question, I think,
Yeah.
about more talking, asking him more about how.
Where would you want to have a soft
Where
interview?
could you have a soft interview space? Could it be in a meeting room or the office or, yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
we should be moving on. The cameras and security, I don't know if we can make a lot of
No,
decisions on
that
this.
was-
The one thing that I would say about this is that, you know, when I worked for the school district, we brought in or I went to a seminar with a security consultant.
Mm.
Holy smokes, was it expensive?
Mhm.
You know, these guys see, you know, danger everywhere, you know, we should have bulletproof windows.
That's how they make their money.
I know, exactly, you know, so like, you know, on the one hand, it'd be useful, particularly for setting up the cameras, but on the other hand, the guys who did it there didn't know what they were doing, you know?
Right. He ended up buying Ring cameras off the shelf and putting them in.
So I don't know, you know, times have changed, you
Right.
know, so, you know, then the technology has changed a great deal so that it's much easier to,
So, yeah, I mean, and so
Yeah.
again, this is kind of looking into the future, back to that calendar, the schedule that we were talking about to begin with, is that whereas kind of the programming piece here, we've gotten down to the police department being kind of the driver of how long it's going to take. When we get down to trying to budget for this project as well.
Yeah.
How the police station gets outfitted is going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
And than
yeah,
figuring out what kind of wall finishes and how many outlets you're going to put in these empty tenant spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even where in Linda's office or Josh's office, we're going to sit down with Linda or Josh and we're going to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take more than an hour or two of talking with them.
Yeah.
But the police it's going to take,
It's
a lot
all-
of
yeah,
specialty
so
little
you-
spaces,
yeah.
you know, the
So-
things like those evidence lockers, you know, are expensive and, you know, and you need them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but again, that's easy enough to kind of sit on find a catalog or whatever and figure out, okay, that's what we're going to do. And those are $1,500 each, you know, and
Thousand.
whatever it is, but, you know, versus the camera system, somebody's gonna have to really, from an infrastructure standpoint, decide how many you need and whether you want this kind of a camera system or that kind of a camera system or
And
any
it's-
kind of camera system.
And it sounds like it needs to be dedicated probably exclusively to the police department
Oh, yeah.
and not, you know,
I
I
can't
think
imagine
so.
that it's not.
and we might, you know, and we might also want to have cameras in the rest of the building for different things as well.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because
Um,
he talked about it being evidence, they're using the cameras for evidence.
Okay,
so training room, I'm looking down at the recruitment pieces. The trainings are, I think are important and
Yeah.
you need to have some kind of a training room, but whether that needs to be
dedicated.
Right, that
in
seems like
the
it could be a
walls
shared
of the police
space.
department or not, I'm not sure.
I would think not, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I would think, you know, right now, I mean, at most, we're gonna have 5 at any
Right.
given time, and that's even unlikely. You know, so,
Right.
you know, any one of these and these conference rooms right now, they're not used a lot during the day. They're
Right.
much more used during the night.
And it's also library space.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
for a
lots of space.
slightly larger group. I do think that kind of a smaller place for 2 or 3 people to meet is perhaps good, though.
Mhm.
And that could be. your
That could be
soft
also the
interview.
chief's,
That could be your soft interview.
exactly.
too.
Right.
If you had a table for 4 people or something that could sit
Mhm.
there, and, you know,
Right, exactly. So it seems like there's some space there that might be multi-use,
Purpose.
multi-purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
And the workout equipment that's a no.
no.
That's a hard no.
Look at that.
Or that's either that or it's an easy value engineered.
The weight room,
Yeah.
that's really up to you. I mean,
You can go work out on your own time.
yeah, you can see I work out a lot.
Maybe one of your tenants is a gym. And you just send them
You
upstairs.
probably use the MMU gym, but it's,
It's a little
Yeah.
farther.
Kinda
They can
far
go to the
away.
CVU gym. It's probably closer
Yeah.
than MMU.
yeah, right.
The CVU weight room for anybody who wants to do
Yeah, it's a
it.
community.
It's-
It's open to the community.
And it's amazing. It's really great.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we done?
So,
I
yeah,
think we're done.
so Andrew, were there other spaces on the program that we had put together at the beginning of this process that
But you-
maybe we didn't mention?
Do you want to, do you want to circle back to what we have been listing? So up until now, the program, we've been assuming a space for reception,
Yep.
an office space for the chief, a general office space that's sized for 4 officers,
Mhm.
some additional dedicated storage. The idea being that there's some for lockers and equipment, others for something more sensitive like your armory, bathroom,
Yeah.
a vestibule, a processing room, document storage, an interview room, a conference room, training room, which could be overlapped with something else, a holding cell, a small kitchen breakout kind of break room,
Mhm.
locker room, shower space. Nothing, we were not assuming anything for bunks or anything like that. Some general footprint, that's a 30% markup just based off of general kind of circulation and overhead building overhead space, like
Hallways
IT,
and-
hallways, IT closet, janitor closet, maybe something like that. And then the Sally port.
So
And
that's-
that puts
that's all
us at 3,500 square feet.
Okay, so that's all pretty close. So we're pretty close to, I think that, and that's about. So there's,
Well, they have 3,600, including the 4-car.
yeah, so I don't
garage.
quite get that, but,
That's what he said. I would be surprised if it. included-
So one of the biggest differences is definitely the conference room and some of the meeting space, which he acknowledged is undersized in his space. There's also separation in our program between the vestibule and kind of administrative receptionist area, and then the offices, which he acknowledged is not quite big enough. He was talking about how that kind of general reception.
yeah, okay.
Those are the two immediately big ones. And it doesn't mean that that's the be all. Like, we might be able to efficiently plan things and get them condensed. We were actually assuming under 3,000 with kind of the addition and stuff, because we were finding opportunities with circulation to avoid. But
Right.
Right, so I think that 500 that you had in there is kind of the general other spaces. It may have actually be generous on a program
Yeah.
like this. So,
Yeah, and we were talking about the kitchen being maybe shared so that, yeah, there are little places we might whack out some shared space.
So have we given you enough to work with now?
I
Okay,
think so.
okay.
We said yes to almost everything on the list except the bedroom.
Well,
Well, I mean,
but this was a good way to do
but
it.
it's good because we all now understand what's in there and what it means, and it's kind of hard to imagine
Well, yes,
doing it without most of those spaces.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what Anthony was saying in Hinesburg is, what could you do without? I can't imagine doing without any one of these things, and some of them are a little too small already, so.
Well, one thing that I would like to get away from is calling a Sally port. Because it.
Kind of what it is.
Right,
That is the
exactly.
term.
I know it is a term, and I remember when we went through this exercise before. Come up with the Sally port, and it sounded gold plated to me, and that, it was just. You really need a Sally port? What's a Sally port?
It's a lot.
Storing cars?
It's a lockable
So-
garage.
So processing, a processing area, it makes more sense to me. It's more descriptive to me.
Enclosed processing area.
A closed processing area where you can take somebody out of the car. That would have meant something different to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well,
Somebody
that's-
that you say you want somebody to be taking somebody they're arresting out in front of your kids,
Yeah.
out of the car, and
And so, when we get to the public meetings, that's the kind of thing I want to explain. This is and not just use a term that the average person might not know.
it's a secure transfer bag.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like somebody's got an education.
Yes.
secure
time-
trans-
We have had times when they've had to arrest people, and I can think of one specifically that I got a lot of calls after because people saw it going on, and people coming out of the post office and all this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. I think it's a really good idea to do.
I mean, it's also,
It could be a safety
it
issue,
also
too.
provides it's safety and security. It's also some privacy for those people that are
Yeah.
being brought in.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
Who are,
who may or
Still-
may not be charged
Right.
even, we don't
may or
know.
may not be guilty.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So, yeah, no, I think we've kind of confirmed that, and that we feel like what I'm hearing this group say is that this is what we think is a modest
Yep.
proposal for space.
Reasonable.
It's
Or
a
a-
reasonable request for our police officers to be able to do their job
Right.
safely and securely for them and for the community and for.
So we have a list of things that we need to talk to Ben about.
Yeah, I have a little Ben list
Okay,
here.
that's great. So we'll talk to him.
I can
we
write
might-
the notes and give them to you, and you could maybe pass them along,
Right.
Sure.
questions.
And I'm thinking that it would be good for us to kind of take this list that we've got, but we need to start now, since we know what part of the building we likely want to use
Yeah.
this for.
Okay.
And we know where we think the addition would likely be. We need to
Right.
start actually doing
Yeah.
some conceptual layouts. We don't have to solve every issue and know
Right.
where every single locker is going to be and which way the door swings, but to actually start to draw these things and to see how it lays out and see if that's something that people,
The fun
Think it's
part for
viable.
you.
it
Yeah.
is.
Well, so we'll have Ben here at our next meeting. Do you want to be here for that? Or do you-
I do if we're going to have any of these plans that you're going to want to.
Yeah. So our next meeting is what date? Be
Would
January,
be January,
Well,
if it's 2 weeks from today.
it might, it's usually been the Thursday before the select board meeting,
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be February.
February 2nd.
That's when I'm not. That's when I'm not.
That's
now.
that's when you're not here.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Andrew is fully capable of doing that. And we could just do it the reverse of what we got today
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
Where
Wait, sorry,
Andrew's-
it's February 2nd. It's not the 26th. That's all right.
Yeah,
not January 26th.
well, because this committee always meets the Thursday prior to the select board meeting. And the select board meeting is not until February 6th, because we have a fifth Monday in January. But the meetings are the first and the
Is
third
there any
Mondays.
reason we couldn't meet on the 26th?
If you wanted to meet on the 26th, you
That
can meet on the
makes it
26th.
better for Andrew to be here,
Well,
No, it's better for me to do it, but.
or better for John or Andrew?
can well, that meeting is gonna potentially have a lot if Kevin is also gonna be there presenting some findings
Oh,
from
yeah.
so we might want to think about that a little bit. I would hate to invite Ben, but then have him just sitting there, or, I mean, we could ask Kevin to come late or something.
You know, at this point,
Do we need?
I-
both?
Can we have more meetings? I know that's,
you know,
But we could do that.
I kind of like to get Ben in sooner rather than later, because I don't want to get too far ahead of him. You know, and in some ways that's more important to me than you should be able to tell from the information that Kevin gives you next week, you know, a preliminary, you know, whether we have to shut down or
It's
not.
gonna be below or above. And if it's above, we're good. And if it's below, we'll have to figure out how
Well,
far.
so could we have Ben, like?
could we meet at 6:30
split at
again?
Meet at 6:30 again and have,
That would work for me.
And what day is Kevin planning on being here?
Well, I told him the 26th originally, but that's as a placeholder. But not for some, I didn't realize that wasn't, I was thinking that was the week of our meeting, not the second. But it could be the second.
I mean, honestly, I don't know why we couldn't do both. in one
Yeah,
night.
I would think we could. So maybe,
And if you say if one of them's at 6:30 and the other one's at 7, I mean, I don't think we're gonna talk about the floodplain stuff for more than a half hour.
that's what I'm
Okay.
thinking. So, you know, that would work for me. And when we originally said it, after we hired you, we decided that likely our meetings are going to go an hour and a half. And
yeah,
was there a reason why you went 6:30 as opposed to 8:30, you know, go from 7 to 8:30? Because that was a change. Was that?
I think we talked about it.
I think we talked about 6:30 to
earlier.
even 6:30 to 8:30, weren't we gonna?
Uh,
I don't know.
I don't remember. I remember
don't
starting at
remember.
6:30 was the
Yeah.
the
I
note
think-
that I had.
I
yeah.
think when Christine was the chair, she needed it to be 7 because getting home from work and the
Right.
kids and everything, it needed to be later.
I'm
but
fine with 6:30.
6:30 is fine with me.
I've proven that I'm 5 minutes late whenever you have. them.
So we can count.
6:25.
For me.
6:30 to 7:30, Kevin, and then have Ben come at 7 or 6:30 to 7.
7 and
and
then
have
maybe
Ben
have
come at
Ben
7.
coming. And we'll go through this exercise with him and get his feedback on, you know, what are necessary, what's necessary.
Team up with the questions, he could just come in and run down them.
And which,
Okay.
sorry, which day did we land on? The 26th or the 2nd?
Second.
Okay.
No, I thought the
or
26th.
26.
I
Okay,
thought we
I
can-
don't care.
I don't care. It doesn't
I
matter.
can do either. I can
Andrew, do you have a
both.
preference?
Off the
We'll just
top
have-
of my head, the second is probably better considering the next couple of weeks are,
Plus,
but
we've given.
we
him
might, that might give us a
some
little extra,
framework.
I mean, if I
That
mean, we
was the
could-
leading question I just gave him.
Okay, so you would
Hey,
rather.
John,
the
maybe
second-
do we need to decide right now?
No, I think the second is better. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, as long as you understand, Andrew, on the second, you'll be sitting here with these guys and I'll be sitting there on the screen
That's fine.
from Ohio.
Okay,
All right, the second.
okay.
I think that extra week would make sure that we're showing up with a full array
Stuff
of
to talk about. Okay,
well thought out options.
okay, so I think we're done with you guys for tonight.
Thank you.
This was very helpful.
He's been patiently waiting over there too.
He's been listening, I know.
I know, he's been observing. He's a community member, you know.
All right, so we're,
Good.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Great.
This was
Thanks so
really
much.
helpful.
Yeah, this is really, I feel like we're making really good progress on this.
And going to see the Hinesburg PD was so helpful.
I thought that
To
was really
actually
useful.
visualize.
I worry a little bit about Christine's availability. She's
Well, yeah.
really
Yes.
Her degree program
Yeah,
takes her out of town
takes
a lot.
out of her. Okay,
Yeah.
so Jay, you're next.
All right.
You're up.
You're up.
This
you,
may
John.
take more than 10 minutes.
tomorrow, Andrew.
Bye, Andrew. Bye, Andrew.
John, when you see Jen Drummond, tell him we missed him on the tennis court.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Amy, this might take longer than 10 minutes. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking we were going till 8:30 for some reason tonight, so
Hopefully it's okay with Jay.
I'm good.
Sure,
He has nothing else to do.
sure.
Well,
Oh.
it is a little bit complicated.
This,
Yeah, it is.
as is most things with construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
This is like the big decision that drives a lot of other things, though, that what, are we just gonna leave the police in a little office with nothing, or are we gonna give them the tools they need to actually do their jobs?
In a building so that you can retain
Yeah,
Police
good
officers.
people.
well,
Right.
that is the interesting thing Anthony said about that building, that he thinks the amenities in the building help him to keep people.
And I think that's something
And
we
the
should
nice-
keep in
and the
mind.
nice
That's,
space to
that's
have-
part of the public presentation and part of
Yeah.
the presentation to the select board as well.
Yep.
And I believe that,
Mhm. Well, yeah, the space here is like, I'm gonna be working here.
yeah, it's terrible. Okay, so where do we stand now? Jay?
We have one bid.
We have one bid. I saw that bid.
Yeah,
What was it, 421? I have to look in my,
yeah, a lot of money,
Yeah, a lot of
426,
money.
I think you said the other night.
426.
429, six,
This keeps going up.
Ugh.
yeah,
Oh, what was the budget? I never knew.
I don't know
Think
that
it
we
was
ever
close.
had a budget.
Uh,
Well, I do, I have the one Dave and I put together so long ago before COVID. And it was
429.
not, it was a lot less than that.
The proposal looks fairly comprehensive.
So yes, so the big ticket item is the spire. And is that structural or is
No.
it's not structural?
Mhm.
So, my question on that is, could that be a standalone project? We do not have that much money to put towards the library at this time. We don't have, I forget how much we got now, but I think it's less than
And
300,000.
you can't use all of it to run a library. I mean, you can't use.
The grants would help a great deal. This would be really good use of the grants and particularly the spire and the bell tower is like, as far as historic preservation,
Well, yeah.
they're like,
Dave's spreadsheet.
If, I think maybe one way to look at it is deciding what the amount of money is that you can spend and then prioritizing the list on that. I'm kind of thinking that the spire and the bell tower are fairly important, given the areas that are failing around the intersection with the roof.
Fire and the bell tower were the most urgent on Jan Lewandowski's list. But that was
and it-
7 years ago.
and it,
Oh, I'm sure that hasn't changed.
A lot of other things have deteriorated. since then.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if that would still be his opinion today. The flashing and the architectural woodwork on the spire and the bell tower were his number one priority.
The other piece is like, I super worry about are the holes in the building with, which I'm
Oh, yeah.
assuming is the general woodwork repair,
Yes, it is.
and
And the rotted sill plate. and, yeah.
those like really bother me because
And all the window sills are all rotted.
well, it's so window and door restoration, well, that's actually not that much, but
And the surface prep and painting at 93,000. I think
that seems like. a lot.
Fred Loaf's was 83,000. Their estimate 5 years ago was 83,000.
I don't doubt it, it's a complicated.
Because he's specking sanding down and doing the lead abatement,
Mhm.
not just putting another coat of paint on the.
It's
existing
surface
failing
prep
paint.
first,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not, it's not,
So I forget, and did he phase any of this, or he's looking to do the whole thing starting this spring and,
talked about phasing it when we met with him.
Well, my perspective from the phasing conversation was that the start date was somewhat flexible. And it could be, the project could be done in pieces.
In 2 summers.
Yeah, over however that worked schedule wise, we were trying to entice folks to bid on it and say, you have this much of a window to do the project. And we know it only takes this much. So you can, as long as you can fit it in that time frame, it's good. So
Yeah,
and it would be a different bid if we said, well, can you do this, but not that, and this and not that?
yeah, that's gonna be a negotiation. Yeah.
yeah, because they've got to build scaffolding.
Yeah, for the.
I mean, the scaffolding is a big cost.
Oh, absolutely.
We're having him come back twice to do scaffolding and take it down and come back and put it up. You
Right,
know,
right.
Well, you,
that can change things.
yeah, I don't think there's much of a overlap scaffolding wise. If you're looking at the spire and bell tower and the rest of the building.
Okay.
Certainly it would tie into what's gonna happen in the front, no doubt about that, but
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
not a
maybe
big piece to redo.
yeah.
Where the overlap might be is painting. The surface preparation and painting. So he's got that scaffolding up. You might just paint the tower. I've done that. I painted that tower. At one
Yeah.
point.
I'm a little concerned that we only got one bid.
Yeah,
And I don't have total confidence. I know I brought Alex in, but this is the biggest project they've ever done.
No
as
doubt
a
about it.
company,
yeah,
Because they're new. They've only been in business a couple of years.
I'm a little nervous about that too.
And when you look at their website, it's all been residential, mostly
Restoration.
restoration. So, I don't doubt that he knows what he's doing and he has I looked at the other contractors and, BlackRock is probably somebody who would, if we were bidding the slate, and I don't know Hawk and Trowel, but they're local.
Well, it would be small pieces at a time anyway. The
Yeah.
expectation wouldn't be that they would have an army of folks here doing everything all at once.
Right.
I think it would be a small, dedicated crew.
And
That
it's
will
only-
be
and it's
tacking
only gonna
pieces
be a
of it.
short our construction season is only 5 months long, really,
Right.
because it's all.
Probably
exterior.
24 weeks,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
just about 24 weeks. So this is his job for next year.
yeah.
Um,
And I thought he said he couldn't start right away.
This
this
summer?
Summer, he said he couldn't start till July. Mid-July, because he had another project. I don't know. I
No,
mean, there's
that's,
some clarification that needs to.
yeah, I
happen.
haven't reached out and
And
spoken
we should
to
also
Alex.
probably get some references just on jobs they've done.
Mhm.
I mean, he used to work for Preservation Trust of Vermont,
that's good.
and before that, he worked for the State Division of Historic Preservation.
That's good.
So he understands the historic preservation part.
Does he get the contracting piece?
Yeah,
That's where
that's
my
the question.
concern is.
Well, we can sort that out.
I wish we
But-
had more time.
I wish we had more time and more bids.
So
But,
how could we do that? So like, what I wish is that, have you been following the grant programs for the library?
no, I haven't been sending Jay. So there's a new,
There's
there's
two
new
new
grants.
programs, right? There are two new programs with like lots of money in them, for specifically for libraries.
Historic preservation or just
no,
money in
it's
general?
ARPA and CDS money.
Uh-huh.
And 16.4 million in the coronavirus capital project fund. And 10 million, this is to Vermont. 10 million from Leahy's congressionally directed spending.
Who's divvying that up?
The Department of Libraries.
Ah,
And they say
They love us.
we
too.
anticipate opening the application in February, grant awards by spring, and the money and the projects could begin in summer of 2023.
So where we are,
2026 to spend the money.
so where we are really well positioned is we have this.
yeah.
We've got a budget, we have a budget, we have a lot of work that's gone, so other people are going to be scrambling to try to put together a project. We have the projects. I don't think the program is developed enough to know, what the matching fund requirement is yet.
No, they say
They don't
February,
know.
but who knows? They just got told about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, it's like, surprise.
Well, Congress actually functioned up until 2 weeks ago
Yeah, I know.
and that's done.
Anyway, so, yes,
So, my problem is, well, for one, I could not bring this to the select board. We don't have the money to do it.
no,
That we can't bring this entire thing to the select board, and I don't know if I feel entirely comfortable doing that at the moment. What I would rather do is I would rather apply for grants and then do this process again. Because we're not going to be able to, hold on to this guy for a year.
I think that's risky.
What, bidding it again?
Yeah.
As do I. I think we're really fortunate to get one.
And I think if we don't say we're entertaining your bid, but we could lay out, it was considerably more than we thought it might be. We have the opportunity for some grants.
Mhm.
So,
Could you hold the bid? How long could you hold the bid? See, he's not going to be able to hold the bid very long. He's got to book up for the summer.
Well, that's the key. It's, the money side of it, the escalation cost, that we can work that all out. It's his construction schedule that's gonna be the pinch point.
right,
So, however,
unless we partial this out.
that's what I'm wondering.
Some of it.
Is there any opportunity to say, let's do the windows and the doors, or let's do, a piece and parts of it to kind of pick away at improving the exterior envelope of the library. And you keep moving the ball down the field a little bit on this. And then go through this grant application process, which is gonna be what, 3 months at the earliest?
Actually, they're talking about doing the awards this spring.
Oh,
Wow, that's really quick.
yeah,
That's why we might be in good shape with this. Because
yeah,
a lot of people might not be able to get
exactly.
bids at that. If we were gonna parcel this out and do something now, I would say you could do the top 3 now.
Well, you can't do the painting until you're done with the restoration.
No, but the surface prep and painting of the building. Leave the spire and the bell tower as a separate thing.
I think we'd have to, it's gonna require conversation
Yeah, yeah,
either way, but
Or
talk
do a
about
little work.
where that line is gonna be drawn, what that means to his, pricing. And then
Right,
repackage it, have him repackage that work.
right.
I don't know that it's gonna change the cost that much.
No, I'm just saying if we wanted to say, we're gonna go with this part. this
Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah.
We're gonna see
Where-
what we get for grants.
Where does this fit within our purchasing policy? We asked, we solicited multiple times to multiple contractors, but only got one bid back. But this is a big ticket item. So Is that okay?
Yeah, we follow the sealed bid process,
Yeah,
so we
the
got.
select
what we
board
got.
would have to decide if they said, no, we're not gonna pay for this because we didn't get more bids. That's up to the select board to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
so
they
how
could.
about this? How about we have a conversation with them and explain where we're at?
Mhm.
That we're interested. We don't have this much at this point, but we have some hope
Yeah.
that we're gonna be getting grant applications. Which would they want to do? You know, which of these would they want to do?
Which could we I think if we said we have $150,000 we could spend now, then we could ask them, how would you phase this? I think without a number, it'd be hard for him to come back.
Yeah, but I like your idea, Lori, as that's the restoration of spire and the bell tower is gonna be a couple $100,000 to 250,000, depending upon, what is all included there and what we find. So I think to look at the top three pieces and say, this is the work we want to accomplish. Let's not ask him, if we're gonna spend this much, what can he do? But tell him, this is what we want to do. How cheaply can you do it for us? Kind of thing, and approach it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
The other thing that we need to keep in mind is we need a healthy contingency tucked away here, because there are gonna be some things that are uncovered that we know nothing about.
Mhm.
There- no doubt about it. It's just like working at your house,
Yeah.
oh, look at that.
Yeah, he didn't actually include any contingency. money.
He maybe has some
In his
built
mind.
in for him,
Yeah,
but to protect his, his
Yeah.
profit and bottom line. But
but if we were.
we
gonna
would
go
need
for
something
money,
on our side.
Have to go for, add a contingency to go to the select board,
Absolutely.
whatever number we end up with.
10-15%?
I'm thinking in there somewhere, I was gonna settle at maybe 12.5 in between the two, but yeah, something fairly hefty.
So that's a little bit, that's more like 160, 165,
Yeah,
something like that.
getting towards 170.
And I think we have in the reserve, we have something over, it's between 200,000 and 300,000. I don't remember what.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
It's somewhere in that, that's cutting it close. We do
Yeah.
get, we do get annual, monthly revenue. But
But
we
not
use,
That much.
and we need some for, keeping
Right.
the lights on.
Or,
Well,
yeah,
I
of course.
Feel like we can spend that whole thing on there would be pushback if we spent that whole fund on the library. We also can do fundraising. I hate to say it, but
We can, but
No.
that doesn't fit within a time frame.
no,
It doesn't help for this summer.
no, it does not.
Um,
The grants might or might not help, but that's a crapshoot.
I think the conversation with Alex would be, we want to do the windows, door, and doors, the general wood repair, and the painting, the surface prep and painting. We don't want to paint the front. And we don't want to fix those windows in the front right now, because we're going to be staging and doing heavy construction work, and that doesn't
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense to do that now. So what gets peeled out of those numbers if we don't do that front facade? That's kind of what I'm thinking.
And the spire and the bell tower.
Yeah, and we know what that cost is.
Yeah. It would take care of
And
the,
it might be that 41,000,
I think it
the
looks like
principal
that
facade
41,000.
restoration.
So it sounds like we need to have a conversation with him. When did he send this in?
Was due the 6th. This is dated the 4th. Is
A week ago, a little over a week
Not
ago.
last week, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not-
Thursday last week.
so
we're the driver here. We have to tell him what we want.
Right. So we bid it twice.
We got no bids the first.
No
time.
bids the first time, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of
what did we expect?
banging on doors.
Did we, when we,
I was looking for the bread loaf.
was it
you
a bread
know.
loaf or did we, you You and Dave put it
You
together
know,
pretty well, didn't you?
no, But I don't think I have it in here for some reason.
I might. When would that have been?
Red Loaf's,
I have
report?
Brett's numbers here, hang on.
Dave and Lori put together,
We did a spreadsheet, but I don't know that, I just.
and as you're looking, Lori, the grant from the state was only for the Spire bell tower work?
no, not necessarily.
Well, it was for it, but Caitlin told me that we could change what it was for.
Oh, okay.
We just needed to send her a letter
And
to
how much do we have in there?
21-4.
Okay, so that's good.
21-8.
That might be the contingency,
Yeah, that sounds right.
right?
Breadloaf had a separate spreadsheet with the numbers. Here it is.
Spreadsheet updated. There it is.
There it is.
I got it.
Library. See, these are not that, the tall steeple restoration that Breadloaf estimated was 157,000.
Mhm. That's
was
just
just
the
for the
one, right?
one.
Yeah.
They had 83 in here for scrape and repainting the clapboards.
This is how old? The
Oh, this
report?
is 2018, so it's, oh.
Yeah,
And-
we figured all of this stuff at 150. So this is the spread. Does this look familiar to you, Lori?
Yeah, I just don't.
Is that the one?
150,000, yeah,
I think that's the one, isn't it?
yeah.
Isn't
Then
that
we
the
had
one?
some other things, if you scroll down,
Planned. HVAC, this is the ones we all did.
yeah, keep scrolling down.
Completed.
going.
We already completed those. That's as far as it goes.
Oh, so up at the top, what does it say at the top?
RP issued.
And see, we didn't come up with we didn't have an estimate for that. No, that's the other thing.
RP issued, no
150,000,
bids.
Was that what?
That's, yeah,
Yeah,
which is pretty much this RFP, I think.
yeah, but now it's 429.
Yeah,
so,
so we actually don't want to bring this up.
no, we don't want to bring that up.
I don't know if the scopes are, you're right, are really comparable, and I was just looking at, you said that was done in 2018.
Yep.
2023, right?
5
So,
years later.
yeah, and, the last year saw something close to 9% escalation. The year before that was similar. The year before that was a little bit less.
Yeah.
So we're talking a considerable price jump from 18 to 23.
Mhm.
So can we, so I think we should have a meeting with them, and I think,
Mhm.
I don't know if we can even commit to 150 at this point.
I think it would be helpful to know the top end before you sit down with Alex.
I'm not sure how to determine that. Do you have any ideas?
I think we need to figure out, I know we had it at the last budget meeting, how much was gonna be like left in the town center fund, which we're through with all the different projects.
Yeah.
So right now, that number would probably be very informative.
Yeah, and that's probably, so, we can pull that together. My recollection is it's somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000. And then somewhere in, 225 somehow sticks in my brain,
Mhm.
but that's for everything.
For
you
the
know.
items that Breadloaf itemized that are on that thing, they estimated 377,000 in
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
So that's
We're-
reasonable.
True.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's a pretty good, that's a pretty good check.
60,000 more.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, because this is not
Now, we
This
didn't,
is not the bell tower
No, that's not.
restoration.
No.
That's not in here, so.
Yeah.
So then we're much closer.
not, I mean, it's not that far off. It's just, we've never put all those numbers together in one place before.
So here you go, Jeff. This was the estimated, let me get back up here. The town center reserve fund is here,
Yeah, there you go.
and we had At the end of FY 22, we had 430,000 in it. We're anticipating
At the
70.
end of 2020, so that would be in July, right?
July
That
2022.
is 210.
So, right, so that's the end, yeah, that's essentially June
So you
30th,
spent half,
2023.
more than half of it.
So, yeah, we've got like $300,000 coming out in FY 23, which includes the repairs we did and what else is in there? I'm blanking, well, the architect we just got done with, and the
Yeah.
J's fees. So yeah, we're anticipating to be at 210 by the end of 23.
This is July of 23.
So, I don't see how we can spend
Can't even spend
150,000.
150,000.
I don't see how we can spend $150,000 out of that. That
Yeah.
really leaves us pretty thin.
I'm sorry, did you guys want that back?
So it seems like what's dependent on this is grants. If we were, what would be more compelling is if we got,
$100,000.
$200,000 or $300,000 worth of grants and put the $150,000 towards it, then that makes some sense, I mean, that would be
Yeah.
leveraging.
And we don't, and at this point, the library grants. I don't know what the numbers are, if they're gonna have a maximum, nothing, because there's no rules.
We,
Well, so maybe this is a 2024 project,
Yeah,
it might have to
right?
be.
I mean, that's, let's just kind of, it sounds like it's not gonna be 23. But by the time that
I don't.
we
think
get all
so
our
either.
financing organized and
Yeah.
scopes of work
I don't
kind of
think so.
sorted out but that's okay
Think the
to have that
conversation
conversation.
And say, we understand.
with the
you might have to
contractor. Yeah,
Revise your
Yep.
bid for 2024. And yeah.
but we have a framework to kind of keep things,
We have something
close.
to apply for grants with.
oh,
which is
that's
a big
also
thing.
important, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I think that's the
I think
conversation.
I think
so
that's it.
who do you want to have that conversation with? Do you want to do it yourself or?
It's
wanna be
entirely up
involved,
to you.
Lori?
We can have Alex come down. We can, however you want to do
I
it.
mean, I don't need to, maybe I should be there only because I introduced him.
Oh,
but-
don't worry about that.
But you've been
You think
dealing
it's-
with him. And you were
You think you
there.
can do it yourself?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we have you on the agenda? At our next meeting or the one after, whenever you've been able to have this
Yeah.
meeting, see how that went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
And as soon as I hear anything about grants.
yeah.
No, but
So the goal is, we can't afford to do the work now, right? That's the conversation. There's appears to be funding available. We have information that we think is going to help us at least get in line and
Yeah.
maybe at the front of the line of this
Yeah.
funding
I
train.
think that's true.
And our goal is to start construction for 2024.
Yes.
And then that allows him to do his scheduling and
I think that's. I
Right.
think
get a
that's-
level of comfort and
because he's not gonna want to count on, have a maybe
Right.
job for 2023.
Right.
there's no maybes,
No.
not right now. It's
Yeah.
too soon to,
Yeah, we can't
summer,
commit
so.
within the time
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I think that all makes good sense. And I think it's prudent for us to be thinking in terms of 2024.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We've already spent $300,000 on the library, another 50.
And we're gonna have another big one coming up. that We're gonna be asking.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
Um,
politically, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
but if we come with, grant money in hand, that changes the discussion.
Mhm.
Right, we can pay for half of it or more than half of it with grant.
Yeah.
now, when does that 20,000 grant, is that 24 too, the end of 24? I think,
We can probably get an extension. I can reach out to Caitlin and give her the,
You can see if there's
Sure, sure.
anything he wants to, anything on this list that we could do for 2025.
I mean, the masonry is the one thing that you could just pull out and do. Cause
There's no
that's
doubt. And
very much,
from a safety perspective, that might
might be
be
the one.
a
that
very
we
high
need.
priority
But that's
item.
not really gonna give him anything, cause he's just gonna subcontract
That's correct.
that to, yeah, we realized it doesn't meet code. It's not even to code.
What is
The front
Found-
steps of the library was never built with those,
this one?
No, the very front is the masonry.
masonry one,
Oh, but we don't use it, though,
but
right?
it's an egress for fire. It has to be usable.
So
Yeah, anyway.
the other part of this that's kind of enticing to me is if we can do a small project with Alex this summer and go through a little feeling out
Yeah, that would.
stage, that
What do you
might
think? Yeah.
help everybody's comfort level too.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a plan. So
Yeah.
if you can talk to him
Yep,
and,
be happy
maybe
to.
come up with some ideas, we'll,
Yeah, yeah.
and hopefully it sounds like they're moving at light speed on this.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's what they say, but we'll see. It's a state agency.
Yeah. Okay, I think we
The
can,
state is more functional than the feds right now, but
I think we can race through the rest of our agenda.
oh,
The meeting minutes look fantastic.
yeah.
It's always easy.
Back and forth.
Linda, did you have any questions or concerns or additions, deletions to the meeting minutes from December 15th?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, so
No
I
motion
think
Hearing
for
Lori's
none.
that.
doing a great job, and the summation of our visit to Hinesburg was excellent.
Thank you. I was frantically scribbling down.
Thanks, Jay.
thanks, Jay.
Frantically scribbling numbers, and he was like doing the square footage and
What I'll try to do, I'll try to commit to getting floor plans.
okay.
That I think that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
And I'll type up the minutes and have my little Ben questions section. So
Okay,
you could reach out to him when you ask him if he can make that meeting. and
Yeah.
Maybe say, these are kind of big questions for you to think about.
so, a couple of other things so on our next agenda, we'll have the elevation.
Right,
We'll have that guy, we'll have Ben, we'll go through this.
yeah, we should probably hold on the grants, because maybe we just wait to see if the Department of Library.
Well,
comes up with
so
any more.
another piece of that, what I wouldn't mind considering, hiring a grant writer.
Okay.
And that would be like for a lot less money than what we're talking about, so maybe $10,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
To hire a consultant to look at grants,
yeah.
any grants that would be relevant, would seem like it'd
Well,
be
there's-
money
there
well
is-
spent.
There are some grant assistant places you can get. grants,
You
right?
can,
Assistant.
there's information, but
I mean, Preservation Trust. offers
I've
some
got a
grants,
list, actually. I
right?
got a list from VLCT.
Yeah,
Of,
And what
community
was-
development consultants. One of them's in Richmond.
no, but I
called them.
mean, they have free grant writing assistance.
From who? From,
From
historic preservation?
Trust, because I think the Censor Group file grants can pay for that. I think that's one of the,
Okay,
think
this building, I think, has, potential for more than just historic preservation. So like, there's,
Right.
there's a whole bunch of energy grants that are coming out. That,
well, USDA's got like.
facilities, the community
one that
facilities
just came
program,
out. Yeah.
that's possible too.
yeah.
I can continue to do some research on that, but, if not at our next meeting, at a,
I think our next meeting's full with
Pretty
Kevin
full.
and Ben.
and another issue that I'd like to talk about, and we can talk about it with the architect, coming up.
Yeah.
There's a concept called commissioning. And what that is that you go through this whole process and you have the architects design it, and then you have engineers come in and they do their design. What a commissioning agent does is to make sure that what is designed, is what's built. And you would think that would
And that's
happen.
different than an owner's rep?
It is.
Okay.
So it's a very specific process
Mhm.
for determining that the equipment functions as it was designed to function. And it's surprising how often that doesn't hapen
Well,
in
it
a
has-
commercial
it's
building.
happening on the library and.
It happens regularly. It happens regularly that it doesn't. So there's a whole process on for commissioning that I would like to bring. Aileen, who is on this committee, that's what she
Yeah.
does.
And Dave Healy, I'm sure, has
Yes.
dealt with that too, so.
So, at a future agenda item, might want to bring Aileen in and explain what commissioning is and try to understand at what point in the process is it useful. It might not be until we get, past a bond vote.
Yeah,
but,
that's what
maybe,
I'm Thinking, or you
but,
package that cost into the bond vote,
Yeah.
In which case you would have to have somebody on board with
Yeah.
price.
and so, and another issue that the architects are going to want to bring up sometime coming up is spending probably a meeting just talking about windows. Windows are a specific component that is challenging. One suggestion was to have a meeting with Preservation Trust and with VEIC and talk through what the issue. So the issue is whether to rebuild these windows or to replace them. And it's complicated. They're both,
You know what Preservation Trust is gonna say.
well, they might be negotiable on some of it, so it depends, for me, it's about
They have
functionality.
to appear as the historic window.
Which is
They
cool.
Don't have to be necessarily the same material.
Right. Well, so like,
There's a whole section in the
And we
secretary.
certainly don't
of the
need-
Interior On Windows.
we certainly don't need. And I really don't want the storm windows. Storm
Right.
windows are terrible.
Right.
It's for so many reasons. So getting back to the actual windows is, there are ways, there are options on that. So John talked to me about that. He would like to do that.
One discussion about windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soon as we get through the basic building thing, that's probably
think
the
you're
I
right.
was
next
to say,
thing.
once we know the
Yeah, what the
footprint and the
structure's
shell.
gonna look like.
Okay.
Alright.
Is there any other business we need to discuss?
No, my brain is now
I think so.
Much?
fried.
Yeah, try the 11 o'clock
Tonight.
meeting.
There's a lot going on.